The question lingered in Nathan's mind like a fog that refused to lift. Why am I suffering? It seemed to have no clear answer, gnawing at his soul with every passing day. Once full of life and ambition, Nathan now found himself trapped in a maze of despair, battling external and internal forces. Nathan's life had not always been this way. Growing up in a modest, close-knit family, he had been taught the values of hard work, kindness, and perseverance. Though not wealthy, his parents had given him a stable, loving home. He excelled in school, had a tight group of friends, and, for the most part, his future seemed bright. Like any young man, he had dreams. He wanted to be successful, to make his family proud, to create a meaningful life. But somewhere along the way, life had taken a different turn. After graduating from college, Nathan, like many of his peers, entered the workforce with high hopes. He landed a job in the city at a large corporate firm. It wasn't the most glamorous job, but it was a foot in the door, and he was determined to climb the ladder. For a while, things seemed to be going well. He worked hard, impressed his bosses, and earned a promotion within his first year. Yet, as Nathan's career progressed, so too did his feelings of unease. The long hours, the constant pressure to perform, and the relentless pursuit of success began to take their toll. He became disillusioned with the corporate world, finding that the further he climbed, the more empty he felt. The job that once excited him now felt like a prison, and no matter how much money he made or how much recognition he received, a deep sense of dissatisfaction gnawed at him. Then came the first significant blow. One day, without warning, the company announced a round of layoffs. Nathan's position, despite his hard work, was eliminated. The news hit him like a ton of bricks. He had built his entire life around his career, and in an instant, it was gone. With no job, no sense of direction, and mounting bills, Nathan spiraled into depression. He had always prided himself on being resilient, but this setback felt different. It felt personal. As months passed, Nathan struggled to find steady work. The job market was more challenging than he anticipated, and each rejection letter felt like another nail in the coffin of his self-esteem. Friends who had once been his support drifted away as they became consumed with their lives and careers. Loneliness became a constant companion, and Nathan sank deeper into a pit of hopelessness. It wasn't just the job loss that weighed on him. His personal life was also unraveling. His relationship with his long-term girlfriend, Sarah, became strained. She was initially supportive, encouraging him to keep trying, but as time passed, the stress of financial instability and Nathan's growing emotional distance began to erode their connection. Arguments became more frequent, and the love that once held them together felt like a distant memory. Eventually, Sarah left. Her departure felt like the final blow in a long series of losses. Now, sitting alone in his small apartment, Nathan felt completely defeated. Every plan he had for his life seemed to have fallen apart. He had no job, no relationship, and no sense of purpose. The days blurred together in a haze of frustration and sorrow. Why am I suffering? He asked himself repeatedly, but the question echoed in the empty room with no response. One particularly bleak night, Nathan sat on his couch, staring at the ceiling, muttering aloud, "Why am I suffering? What did I do to deserve this?" His voice was raw, filled with anguish and confusion. He wasn't religious, but in that moment of desperation, he felt the need to cry out to anyone, God, the universe, some higher power, for an answer. He didn't expect a response, but to his surprise, something shifted inside him. It wasn't an audible voice, but more of a quiet realization, a feeling that washed over him like a gentle breeze. The answer didn't come in words, but in a subtle shift in his perspective. In that moment of clarity, Nathan realized he had been asking the wrong question. It wasn't, "Why am I suffering?" that he needed to ask, but "What can I learn from this suffering?" What was this experience trying to teach him? For the first time in months, Nathan allowed himself to reflect not just on his pain, but on the potential lessons hidden within it. He had been so focused on the losses he had experienced that he hadn't considered what those losses might reveal about himself and his life. Perhaps, he thought, his suffering wasn't a punishment, but an opportunity for growth. He began to think about his time at the corporate firm, a job that had drained him of joy and passion. Perhaps losing that job wasn't the tragedy he had made it out to be. Maybe it was the universe's way of nudging him in a new direction, one that aligned more with his true self. He had never truly enjoyed the work, and now, without the pressure of maintaining that identity, he had the freedom to explore other paths. His breakup with Sarah had been painful, but it also revealed something important: his need for external validation. He had placed so much of his self-worth in his career and relationship that he felt like he had nothing left when both were gone. Perhaps this was an opportunity to cultivate a sense of inner strength and learn how to find fulfillment from within rather than seek it from others. Nathan realized that suffering, while painful, could be transformative. It could break you, yes, but it could also rebuild you into something stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with your true purpose. The following day, Nathan woke up with a sense of resolve he hadn't felt in months. He didn't have all the answers, but he no longer felt as though he was at the mercy of his circumstances. He began to take small steps to rebuild his life. He reached out to old friends, not to ask for help, but to reconnect and share his experiences. He started journaling every morning, using the quiet time to reflect on his thoughts and feelings. He slowly began to see patterns in his behavior, how his negative self-talk had sabotaged his confidence, and his fear of failure had held him back from taking risks. Nathan also began to explore new career opportunities, but this time, he focused on what brought him joy rather than what was expected. He rediscovered his love for writing, something he had abandoned in pursuing corporate success. He started freelancing, taking on small writing projects, and though it didn't pay much at first, it reignited a passion within him that he hadn't felt in years. As the months passed, Nathan's life didn't magically become perfect. He still faced challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. However, he no longer saw his suffering as something to be feared or resented. Instead, he viewed it as a guide, a teacher who could show him the areas of his life that needed attention and growth. One evening, as he sat down to write in his journal, Nathan smiled. The question that had once haunted him, "Why am I suffering?" no longer had the same hold over him. He realized now that suffering, while painful, was not an enemy. It was a necessary part of the human experience that could lead to profound transformation if embraced with an open heart and mind. And in that realization, Nathan found peace. People can suffer physically and mentally. While physical suffering can be caused by various factors, 90% of human suffering is mental, originating from within ourselves. Every day, people subject themselves to suffering through emotions like anger, fear, hatred, jealousy, and insecurity. This mental suffering constitutes the majority of the suffering experienced in the world. Living in the modern world can be overwhelming due to constant noise, frequent interruptions, and high levels of stress. Finding peace and calm in the midst of daily chaos is extremely challenging. While escaping to the Tibetan hills to meditate forever may seem tempting, it's not realistic for most of us. Besides, the true value of yoga isn't found in such extreme measures. Suffering is a deeply personal experience, and we all experience it in different ways. During times of intense distress, it can feel like no words or explanations are enough. We search for answers to urgent questions like why? Why me? Why not me? Why now? Why this? What's next? Where was God when this happened? It's evident that some people bring suffering upon themselves through their choices. However, it's also clear that some are unsuspecting victims of others' bad decisions or seemingly random events. Why doesn't God at least protect those who genuinely strive to live a good life and follow His law? If you change your thoughts and perceptions, suffering can be a gateway to personal growth and expansion. Understanding the root of our suffering and taking action, such as altering our inner dialogue or changing our behavior, can help us alleviate our suffering. There are two primary forms of suffering: physical and mental. While physical suffering can result from various causes, approximately 90% of human suffering is mental and originates within ourselves. Every day, people subject themselves to suffering by experiencing feelings of anger, fear, hatred, jealousy, insecurity, and various other emotions. This mental suffering is the most prevalent form of suffering in the world. Subscribe for more videos. Thank you.